Brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. I am Mike. With me is Josh and Steve. The Hounds got another massive 3 points this weekend. We have tons of catching up to do. I think this warrants a let's go. So you know what? Let's go! Listen, not to my own horn, but this dawned on me. My kids, apparently this is a thing now. For everybody who's hip and into it, like they've known this for a while now. But the thing is, like, people say let's go now. Like when they get excited, like, oh, let's go. And I'm like, we've been doing this for years, people. We started this.
Are you trying to claim let's go?
Yes.
Right now?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. Your very non-generic
right.
tagline.
Nope. It's all
Mike Sparks. Hashtag let's go.
Yeah. That's right. We did it. I've been gone for 3 weeks. I'm on my high horse. We're doing it.
Trademarked. Copyright.
Right. What's going on, gentlemen? It literally has been 3 weeks, I think, since I've been on. I know you guys did the show last week. I thought it was great. You guys just kind of like flowed between topics in ways that I just can't do. I'm not natural like that.
I mean, Josh is easy to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trick is to not look at the hard work that Steve did with that outline and just start talking, and then him being like, "Oh, I guess we're moving on to this topic."
I mean, it was definitively okay. Skip around.
I did not mean to do that. I was just like,
it worked really well.
Yeah, I realized it afterwards. I was like, "Oh crap, that was supposed to be next. My bad."
Yeah.
I mean, Josh, to be fair, I definitely jumped past things as well.
That's true.
It's cool. It felt more natural that way. I liked it. What's Josh? What's new with you?
Planning a trip to Vegas. Which, by the way, right now, a trip to Vegas, not the greatest idea. F1 is having an event there in November, which means they're tearing up the whole strip right now to have like the F1 track and the bleachers set up and all that kind of stuff. So like the fountain's not going to be going. A lot of the like landmark type stuff is not going to be like accessible via walking. But luckily, there's still a crap ton of stuff to do in Vegas, so I'm not really that upset. Liz and I are going, one for her birthday, but also because of the When We Were Young festival. It's like a pop punk festival. So really looking forward to it. Yeah, have you heard about that sphere? You know, like the giant sphere? It's all over like online and all that kind of stuff. But
I've seen the outside of it. What is inside of it?
It's a kind of like a OmniMax. You like the screen of the Science Center? It's like that, but giant. With a lot of bleachers, like a lot of stands. And right now, U2's playing there constantly, like 3 times a week. I don't like U2 that much, so I'm not spending $300 to go see U2. But what I am going to do is like they have like Postcard to Earth or something like that, which is like a kind of like a nature documentary thing there. So we got tickets to go see that. But like apparently the inside is like immaculate. It's like super giant screen, like just the biggest, highest definition OmniMax ever. So I'm just looking forward to like checking out that place and seeing what it's like.
No, it seems awesome. And when are you guys going?
I'm gonna miss the first playoff game because of this. I didn't schedule the festival. All right, that's what this was originally planned around, was the festival. But yeah, unfortunately, I will be missing the first playoff game, and it sucks so bad.
Listen, I'm probably the last person that can give anybody crap, considering that I'm not a season ticket holder, and I live all of an hour and 15 minutes away. So yeah, I'm just gonna shut up. Steve, what's going on?
Not much. Like my weekends have been things I've been trying to be really chill with because work is super, super busy right now. So some of the changes in my job this year, just realizing how much more work it is. It's good. But man, like I get to the end of the week and I'm just like, I'm tired. I've spent a lot of time interacting with students and a lot of time preparing for those. So I think the biggest things are getting a text from a friend on Saturday and spontaneously going down to the Banavin little street festival, and a house a few blocks away had a record sale. So I picked up Times They Are Changing by Bob Dylan, and a couple other records. That was pretty cool. And then today, got my shots.
Nice.
So flu and COVID booster today. So
how you feeling?
when I feel good tomorrow. I feel great now, right? Like having some victory beverages before the podcast. I don't know how that is. Probably not a great idea, but whatever, right? Like it's been less and less each time I've gotten a COVID vaccine. So, but I already emailed all my students for tomorrow to say, hey, we're going to meet on Zoom. I'm not driving in. My weekly meeting with my boss and coworkers canceled because she's on PTO, and I'm just like, man, I don't need to drive into Oakland more than I need to drive into Oakland. So
Nice.
love my job, but I don't like commuting. Commuting sucks.
Yeah,
True.
I get that.
Where
yeah.
have you been, Mike?
All over the place, dude. I think the past few weeks have been due to high school soccer games, and somehow my oldest son plays, and my younger two aren't like. My middle child will be a freshman next year, so he can play next year. But especially when the games are at home, they're always in desperate need of ball boys. So they have somehow get roped into being ball boys, much to their dismay. But there's a fence that like runs along the side of the field, and more than once the ball gets kicked over the fence, very similar to Highmark. And the top of the fence is like rusty and spiky. And so my kids are like, I'll just climb over that fence. And I was like, no, you won't. So I've been spending my games on the other side of the fence, watching like field level view, waiting for balls to come over to protect my other children. So the high school
Auxiliary
soccer,
ball boy.
that's right. Yes. The high school games have very much become a family affair in terms of who's all contributing. Cause I think the past few weeks, Susan's been working in the concession stands as well. So, yeah, I think we have 3 more weeks of that. 3 more weeks of high school soccer, and then they will be done, which will be good. And then, like scout stuff. We went camping a few weekends ago, and it rained the entire time. Otherwise, it was fun. We took my pizza oven, and so we made like pizzas on like a Saturday night. It was great.
In the rain, right?
In the rain, yeah. We had like a pop-up tent. But then, like the oven was just like hanging out the front of it, and so we just, yeah. So I feel like there's been a lot of other stuff going on, and I just can't remember because it's all a blur. And I'm happy I'm here. So there we go. Guys, I guess before we dive into the game, Josh, you have yours.
All right. Much better.
It's so pathetic.
You need to get cans. You can't do bottles.
I know. Listen, okay. I think I talked about my love of Strongbow before on the show.
Yes,
So yeah. Strongbow apple cider. First time I ever had it was at Piper's. Piper's, I believe, got it from England. The England version is not as sweet as the American version. Like they actually make different versions. But I've had other cider and I just don't like it. There's one place in Latrobe that sells it. And apparently there's like 2 other people that buy it. Because when we go in, I'll get like 6 of the 6. Like I'll clean them out. And they'll be like, there's like 1 or 2 other guys that'll do the same thing. So I think they just keep restocking it for us 3 people.
That's funny.
That's nice.
But yes, this is my go-to. So,
but hey, at least this week we got an actual victory beverage sound, unlike last week when
Zoom decided to buffer.
We had to pivot to Zoom and it blocked it out.
Thanks, Zoom.
I did appreciate Josh's impression though.
Yeah, that was good.
Maybe when you do the bottle, you should just like clink it against like the side of the mic or something like that, and like that's your victory clink.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna do this, and the bottle's gonna like shatter, and then I'm gonna have nothing to drink. No, that's pretty weak.
Okay.
It's bad. Well, yeah.
We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it.
Yeah.
Cans.
Okay. Cans. Yeah. Guys, Hounds got another win. It's like it just keeps happening. I a few weeks ago when Josh, I think it was Yumi, Kev, I can't remember who else was there. We were saying how many points out of like the next however many, and it was like realistically, we're not just gonna keep winning, and we just keep winning. And it was, is Dequa gonna get to 20? And Deke was at 19 and leading the Golden Boot race. So it's been all good things. Maybe I should just stop being on the show because that seems to be the common denominator here. But the Hounds get big win at home, 3-2, last home game of the regular season. Obviously, we still have two more regular season games. They are both away. Steve, kick us off with a takeaway. What'd you think about this one?
I mean, I think it's everything I expected it to be. The Hounds to be the better team, Tulsa to come out and forcing something to happen for them. But I think just seeing the performance from the Hounds was delightful. And Tulsa, I mean, one I think really hard earned goal. We'll get into the other one later. I mean, I think their first goal was I mean, well worked, good effort. It was a good goal. But man, I like one of the best moments of the night was afterwards in the handshake line and just like seeing the joy on the guys' faces, right? Like Chico giving me a big hug, and I'm just like, dude, that is a beautiful forehead. And he just starts laughing, like talking to Rovi about that pass on the first one. I mean,
Yeah.
what an assist! I mean, it was sublime the way he was able to get it high and get it to drop right to Deekwa's head. I mean, just a fun night. Had a buddy. It was his first ever Hounds game. He had a thoroughly enjoyable time. And so, yeah, just, I mean, a great night, a great crowd, great performance from the team. And yeah, I mean, like I said, right? I mean, one really good goal that we gave up and the other one that we can talk about more about why we don't like it.
Yeah. You mentioned the headers. It feels like, when did we learn how to score with our head? Like after last week, and then now this week, all 3 goals of ours came off headers. 2 of them for Chico.
Mm-hmm. Joe had the other one, and what a flick it was.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You know, just another tool in the arsenal.
So
I guess.
I'll say one other thing. There were some big defensive plays by the Hounds in the second half, and being right there, seeing the way that those guys were reacting to just like big plays, but like just like getting super pumped. I mean, there was one where Arturo came in, and it wasn't off the line, but cleared out of the 6-yard box where Jamali would have been beat, and him just like pumping his arm, like getting super excited about it, like super pumped. It was a really fun thing to watch.
Look, I mean, Highmark has become literally a fort for us, and I
Mhm.
think that the fact that at least right now it seems like the Eastern Conference playoffs are going to be running through Pittsburgh. We'll talk in a minute about how it could be the entire playoffs could be running through Pittsburgh is massive.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, what were your thoughts after that one?
Oh man. So kind of echoing what Steve said a little bit there with I mean, I could talk for a long time about player of the year. The Steel Army gave out player of the year. And so after the game, we had the usual handshake line, and instead of doing a victory selfie, we basically got a entire team, not selfie, and giving the award to Deekwa. He was just like probably the most gracious person we've had get the award, and like he was totally into it and like hugging everyone, kissing the award. And yeah, the Hounds did a good job of actually like bringing over the camera and like doing a little announcement thing. I got on the mic to explain what was going on, and it was just like I wasn't expecting it to be as like big of a deal, but the fact that the whole team came over afterwards, it was just awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and definitely a highlight for the season, which has had a lot of highlights, and
I mean,
hopefully
so
a couple more.
So, Josh, I mean, in years past, I don't feel like I've observed this, but maybe I've just missed it. But I don't feel like it's been a team celebration
No.
when that's happened, right? Like it's been the one person standing there. It's like, okay, great, this happened, and then they walk away. Whereas, I mean, it was great. I mean, and I think that was Deekwa was signaling the guys over, come celebrate this. Just like, I mean, a ton of fun. I mean, being on the other side, taking pictures of it, like, and seeing them have fun all together, celebrating his accomplishment, and it meaning something, I think, to him and to the team that that award even exists and that he got it.
Well, and like a little bit more on that is the fact that so usually what happens is like the rest of the team like goes towards their spots to do signings, on the field. But the team stayed there to watch Decoy get the award, which to me tells me a little bit about this team and about the camaraderie and about like the cohesion of it. And it just feels like this team has each other's backs more than past teams and like is like really there for each other. And like seeing that and then seeing Dequa appreciating that and then like asking them to come over for the picture. And then yeah, it was just fantastic. It was a lot of fun, but this was also a really good game. So we should probably actually talk about the game itself.
Well, real quick, Liz said on social media the way the guys interact this year is incredible. I originally read it as the way you guys interact this year is incredible, and I thought, oh, thanks, Liz, appreciate it. I'm not doing anything different, but she meant the actual guy. So just echoing what you were saying there. That I thought it was awesome, especially watching the game on the stream. There was nothing mentioned about obviously the player of the year. I didn't see anything on social media right after the fact. I assumed it was Dequa. I was like, who else could it be?
Yeah.
But then Steve, especially when you shared the photo of him after the fact of just all of the guys and, Kizza like sprawled out, like hand on his head on the ground. Like literally I took that image. That is the like hero image of this episode. So if people see this on YouTube or whatever, that's what you're going to see. Cause it seemed to be an amazing moment. And everything that Lily has been saying, everything that we have seen from Steve, your interactions with the guys, us talking to some of the guys in the preseason, it does feel like this is a special group that is there for each other and they celebrate each other and, long may it continue.
Yeah. And like another thing about stuff outside of the game, the crowd was giant. This was the biggest crowd I think we've had that's not the Columbus game.
Yep.
So like in league play, biggest crowd, 6K. It felt like it. Like our section was packed. It wasn't quite as packed as it was for the Columbus game, but I definitely still felt like, okay, this is a lot of people. And was great. Tailgate beforehand had a lot of new faces, people signing up for memberships. I'm like, it's the last game of the season. We're getting membership signups. I love to see that.
Do those carry over?
No, but someone did buy memberships for the next season. Like,
wow.
They're like, hey, can we buy right now for the next season? I'm like, let me open my notes app on my phone. Sure, why not? She made the joke. She's like, wow, this feels really official. I'm like, hey, I wasn't expecting someone to buy a membership for next
right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's cool. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, with the also the announcement that we had over 5K average attendance this year. For the regular season. Holy crap, that's amazing.
It's awesome.
There's nothing official out there yet, but we got to be expanding in the off season. Like it's just
the team said 13 sellouts out of 16 home games. So
it's gonna happen. But yeah, I feel like that's probably everything outside of the game itself that I want to talk about. So
the spectacle was fantastic. In terms of, we already mentioned Dequa got 2 more goals, so he's sitting on 19. In terms of the Golden Boot race, Trejo and Jennings are at 17, so they're 2 goals back with essentially 2 games to play. So keep that in mind. And I think we played Jennings this week. Yes, Jennings. So against Tampa. So if we can shut him down, like keep him at 17, maybe Dequa gets another one. That's great. So 2 goal cushion with 2 games left is fantastic, and we get to 20. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the Dequa show, like as it never is. I thought that, especially after the past few weeks, a couple of the guys, not that they went missing or they were quiet, but they tended, like in this case, I saw Griffin pop up a few times in this game that I thought he was kind of all over the place. I mentioned a few weeks back that in terms of most improved player from one season to the other, I thought Ibarra looked great. I thought Rovi is quietly having an outstanding season as well, especially the tail end of the season. He was everywhere, covering ground. Steve, you mentioned the cross in on the first goal was just like, mwah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I almost feel spoiled because it's just like we somewhat come to expect this, which is kind of nuts. In prior seasons, I think we'd be on pins and needles heading down the stretch. Like, what's going to happen? With 2 games left, one of them at Tampa, I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm still on pins and needles, but for a different reason. For a different reason, though. It's like obviously we're doing great, and I'm excited, and I nothing will take away from that. But I'm on pins and needles because I really want the player shield. I want to be first. Yeah. I want hardware. We've never had hardware. You know what I mean? Like in league. I want a reason why Tuffy has to build a trophy case. Like I really, really want that. And I know like we had this conversation a couple episodes ago about like you can only have one. What would it be? Blah blah. Honestly, at this point, like it's so close in our grasp. I just want that shield. And this is like one of the first years that they're actually making a big deal of the shield. I feel like the club is actually talking, or not the club, the league is actually talking about it more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping it, feels like they give it the, I don't know, like the pomp and circumstance that it deserves, and it's because it is a huge deal to get first place in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the year we win it, I'm not going to complain about that.
I mean, any other league in the world, that's the championship.
Yeah,
you have the best record in the league. You are the best team. There are no playoffs, and it's also you want to win everything that you have that you can. You have the potential to win, and this is our first shot at hardware this season. Every team gets 2 shots. This is the first shot. At this point, we've got 63 points. The next closest team is Tampa with 60. Sacramento is sitting at 58. We all have 2 games left to play. So if Sacramento wins both of their games and we lose both of our games, then we would be tied on points. But I don't necessarily see that happening. Tampa, if we go to Tampa this weekend and we draw, then the impetus is on Tampa to then have to win the next game just to tie us. If we go to Detroit and get a draw, we could basically end the season with 2 draws and we could win this thing. Yep. So it's a really good situation to be in. It will be interesting, and we're sort of getting ahead of things here, how Lilly decides to roll these out. I don't think he does anything silly. I think you play to win. But Steve, you've mentioned the pen a few times. Let's get back to the pen that screwed up your score prediction, that would have got you all 3 points with a 3-1, but instead it was a 3-2. Tell us what you're thinking.
I get how the official missed what actually happened from the angle that he had, but it was not a great call. The attacker, I forget who it was at this point. It's like number 6 or something like that. Was like, I mean, the ball was far enough in front of him. He was a stride and a half away from the ball, realized that he didn't have a chance to catch up to the ball with the pressure that was on him. And so his tactic was to stick his leg. I forget if it was Ybarra or Dos Santos who was on his left side or right side. Our left side, and literally sticks his leg in between the defender's legs, right? Like, and that's what causes the contact to knock him over. And I just at this level in a game of this importance, I think that it is. It's just at some point the league needs to figure out how to get much better officiating. Because if you want to raise the profile of the league, you need to not have this stuff happening. Counterpoint, Liverpool-Tottenham.
I was going to say, the officiating has been awful everywhere. So, yeah, how do you improve it across the board? But, yeah, that play in particular, it's good that it didn't impact the outcome in a way other than just, our goal differential was +1 instead of +2. But, yeah, you hate to see it. And especially when you, as an official, you have to know that that's coming. The team needs a goal. They're going to get in the box. They're going to get on the ground. So watch for specific instances like that where he clearly didn't have control. And like I said, like you said, he forced the contact. He's the one that stuck his leg out in between our defender's legs. There's nothing they could do about it. So it just,
yeah. Watching the replay frame by frame, like just now as well, because, I saw it live, obviously, but it was hard to tell live. But rewatching it, it's not even like he went for the ball when he he ran forward. The ball's in front of him, but he puts his right leg in front of Dos Santos to actually get tripped up.
Yeah,
right when he gets inside the box, and just so annoying. I will say that I don't think it's the most egregious call in the world. I'm not thinking this ref is the worst ref we've seen, because honestly we've seen much worse in this league, but it's also a situation where it's I don't know what the USL can really do about bad reffing at this point, because we're at the whims of pro. I know that there was talks that we're not going to be officials by pro, we're not beholden to pro, but I don't know what the heck happened to all that, because it still is. It's just the same old. It sucks. It does suck, but unless we were to get VAR and stuff like that, there's not really a thing that can help it. And even if we did have VAR, like I'm sure this is a situation where it'd be like, well, it's not clear and obvious, blah blah blah, yada yada yada.
I was going to say, as Steve alluded to, I think some of the problems with VAR, there are times where I'm like, you know what, just get rid of it. Like when literally every single call is like, hold on, let's pull out the little line and like, that's like half a hair off sides. It needs to get back to the, like, you use VAR to check to see if the ref is incorrect, but unless it's clearly and obviously incorrect, then like you just kind of let it be. In this case, I would hope that VAR would, call it this was a dive, but yeah, it's a mess. But I don't want to detract from, a great win, a great finish to, like we said, the season at Highmark, the regular season at Highmark. Hopefully the memories don't end here. Because, Josh, as you mentioned, it has been quite the year. And once again, I will go on record and say that I was wrong, because the beginning of the season, I was like, nothing's going to happen. Like, I hope I'm wrong.
I do love it. This was the most pessimistic beginning of the year for you. And this is like the best year we've had. I absolutely freaking love that. That's can you be more wrong more often, please?
Yes, I just need a t-shirt that says I was wrong, and I will wear that to every home game from now on and just own it. I'm glad I'm wrong.
To every home game, Mike.
Yes, yes, this is true. Listen, once my kids are like out in like not playing high school soccer or doing scouts and I have a lot more time, trust me. Susan has already been like, so we should get season tickets, shouldn't we? And I'm like, yeah, we should. I love that
Susan is the one that's like,
I know, right?
It's like, yes.
Yeah.
That's so great. What I was going to say about this was also the fact that it is concerning. Like, yes, he drew the foul, but the fact that he was able to draw that foul against us and the other goal, like us leaking goals is not going to help the situation when it comes to the playoffs, because those are the ways that you lose the games as far as like the ones you should handily win. So like, the first game of the playoffs is going to be against a relatively bad team, but if we're leaking these types of goals, anything can happen. So, like, as always, Bob had the post-game talk in the middle of the field, and it wasn't the shortest, it wasn't the longest by any means, but I mean, it wasn't exactly a short talk, because like you can tell he is worried about this, and as he should be. This is a small little light in our armor as far as like what could be our downfall. So we need to tighten this up. Our defense is great. It's just these little like last minute mistakes that keep on happening to us. Like, we don't want another Hartford situation where we almost lose a game against one of the worst teams in the league in the playoffs. So we just got to keep at it and keep our focus, because this is the issue that can happen.
And all the more reason to get the player shield while we can.
Right?
Like, lock that up. Ooh. So, yeah.
Huge game tomorrow or next week.
Yeah. Before we get into that, is there anything else you guys want to talk about in regards to this game? Or even just, looking back at the regular season at Highmark in general, Josh?
Yeah. This has been one of the most fun years we've had at Highmark Stadium. And it's been so cool to see the growth of the club, but also this team gel and become what it is right now. And it sucks that, we just had the last home game of the season in regular. Like, the fact that we don't get another, like, our last game is the home game, especially since we have 2 away games. It's a bummer, but I mean, Detroit's not that far away, so it should be easy to get over there. And I am happy that our last game was against Detroit. That is kind of nice. But I can't think of Detroit right now. All I'm thinking about is Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Agreed. Steve, what was just looking back quickly, favorite moment at Highmark this year?
Ooh. Been a lot.
I was gonna say, you had a lot of cool conversations with guys.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, though, still the one that sticks out the most would have to be talking to Joe after the 1,000th goal. just, I mean, because I was working really hard to get past the like the professionalism of talking to the media, and he's really good at it. And I felt like I got just enough of it because he was so exuberant about that night, and so yeah, like just a fun time. I mean, celebrating that with him, it being his first goal as a Hound, but also just a big momentous occasion. That's definitely up there. But if you made me have to pick one, I don't know. Like there's so many. It's been a great season and a fun season.
Yeah.
Columbus.
But
It has to be Columbus. I mean,
yeah,
it's
I
just
mean,
that was such a big deal, and that was such a static moment. Like watching that crowd just be like in disbelief that we were beating an MLS team.
mhm,
It's yeah,
yeah.
and not being able to move in the Paul Child stand it's a good problem to have, and it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's fun, and I know I'm not alone in this, but um, after a season like this, where there have been so many highs at home, like the way that the players want to celebrate with those of us that they get to know,
Yeah.
the hugs and the conversations afterwards and whatnot, like those are just really fun, cool moments to have, uh, and connections to have with the guys, with the team, and I know there's a lot of people that experience that. So I think that may be in the aggregate more cool, more fun than any one specific moment.
Yeah. I'll say my favorite thing, Columbus is up there, but I think that for whatever reason, this season seemed to be a coming of age for like my own kids, and they now appreciate going to the games in ways that they must have either been too young or they just
Mhm.
didn't get it in previous seasons, and so now. It's at the point when we're going to the games and my kids are like, we're going to the tailgate, right? I'm like, you guys can't even drink. Like, what do you, why do you want to go to the tailgate? They're like, oh, no, that's like, we want to go to the tailgate. And then like literally some of the loudest people in the stands are my kids behind me, like
Mhm.
screaming in my ear and going nuts. And so being able to share that with us, to share the Columbus game with them, like
Mhm.
all of the wins and the ups and downs and like them
Yeah.
getting it is really kind of cool.
Yeah, there is this moment with like I've been in part of the Steel Army and going to Highmark for long enough where I've like watched kids grow up in
Yeah.
that section. And it's really funny because there's a moment where they hit where it is almost intimidating to them when
Mhm.
they're little. Like it's too loud, it's too crazy. But there's that age where they just become like, oh yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
when they hit that age, it's great. That's when they start like grabbing the flags and like
Yeah.
we have to keep them away from the smoke because like, hey, the smoke's hot. Be careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get to that age and they're just like they're in.
And it was even like I mentioned earlier in the season when it was kind of like my wife's whole family came out, and for them to be like taking their cousins and be like, come here, let me show you, like they're like guiding them around the Steel Army and showing them and like, oh, let's go get a flag, and like they know how it works. And so yeah, yeah, it's been very, very cool, very great. Guys, let's talk just a little bit about standings. So we did talk about the player shield just a little bit, throwing the graphic up on the screen. Obviously, we have locked up a spot. All but two spots are locked up in the East. Currently, Birmingham and Miami are sort of sitting in the last two spots, with Detroit and Tulsa sitting just outside the playoff line. The only two teams that have been eliminated thus far in the East are Loudoun and Hartford. Looking, and as we look ahead, ironically, Tampa barely beat both of them the past few weeks. But regardless, part of the reason why that playoff line, we're going to start paying a little bit more attention to it. We got Tampa this weekend, but after that, basically eighth place is who we're going to end up facing in the first round. So at this point, it could be anyone from the Tulsa, Detroit, Miami, Birmingham-ish region. And so obviously we will keep you up to date. But as we said, Hounds 63 points. Tampa's in second place with 60. So all the more reason why this game is massive this weekend. It really is sort of a 6-point swing. If we're able to get the win, there is no way that Tampa or Sacramento are catching us. The player shield is ours. If we get a draw, then we're sort of relying on some points when we play Detroit the following week. And Tampa has to pick up some points, basically win to tie us, and then we force sort of the tiebreaker from there. So a lot riding on the game this weekend. And as I mentioned, not that Sacramento is out of it. Things could go terribly wrong. We lose the last 2 games, and they got a shot at the Player Shield. But at this point, things are looking pretty good for us towards the end. End of the season and the playoffs.
Sorry,
Josh.
I'm confused about one thing. Okay, so Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
If we end up even in points, which could happen if we lose everything.
If we lose both games and they win both games.
The tiebreaker is first head-to-head points, which we only played each other once, and it was 0-0. The next is goal differential in head-to-head matches, which, again, 0-0. Doesn't matter. After that, it's points per game versus in-conference opponents in regular season league games. Do we have any idea what that is for either one of these teams? Because I don't. That's not like listed, readily on the charts.
I have thought about going back and doing that, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't think it's gonna matter. So I'm right?
Okay,
like we're talking about like that only comes up in like bad case scenarios, and I don't think that we're in that bad case scenario. So I've not done the work.
I'll tell you what, after we see what happens at Tampa, if it feels like it's going to be something we need to worry about, then I'll go through and crunch the numbers before next week's
Luke
show.
On the chat, I think might have just I don't know, Luke, if you did the math, but he says even with a 3-way tie with Tampa and Sacramento, our points per game in conference is better. I think we can clinch it on a draw. I believe you. I want to believe you.
I was going to say,
hope I believe you.
He
did the math. He says he did the math.
Did the math. Way to go, Luke.
I'm believing Luke, and Luke I trust. That's the case. Because I really don't know, and so basically we can just draw against
Tampa,
and we should be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Because Tampa has 60 points, we have 63 if we draw against them.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So a draw or a win on Saturday means we cannot be beaten.
Is there any, this is getting ahead of ourselves, and I don't really want to do this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Is there any world in which, even if we do draw or win against Tampa, that you think Lily is resting players in Detroit, Steve?
I think there will be some rotation in Detroit. If the player shield is locked up, I think we will see some players that we've not seen in the 18, and I think some of those guys that have not been starting will be starting. I do think that we will see some changes in the starting lineup and the 18 against Tampa.
Interesting. Why?
Speed on defense.
With that said, though, we've had the same lineup 3 games in a row right now.
Yeah,
we've had the same 10 outfield players for more than that as well, right? Like the only game that it hasn't been the same 11 was when Jamali was away with Jamaica and Garner started. But otherwise, it's been the same lineup for 4 or 5 weeks straight now.
It's funny because we talk about this every season, how we're like, oh, our team is so deep and there's so much rotate. It always seems at the end of the season, Lily settles into his crew, and that's just who sort of rides out the rest of the season. And that seems to be the case again this year. So,
but I think it's with a plan, right? Like you saw in this game where, what was it, around 65 minutes or so? Swapped out both wing backs at the same time, and then brought in Pat Hogan in for Dequa right at the end of the game to really try to lock things down. And so I think it's not that he doesn't trust those other guys, but he's looking at it and he's saying, you know what, this is a slightly better lineup, so let's keep these guys for those situations and do something that really changes the face of the team as opposed to just swapping in players at the same positions because it's a coin flip.
Well, and we've talked too in the past about how I think there's this stigma around, well, all because you aren't starting means that you're clearly not a better player. And I think that soccer has evolved in such a way, and you're seeing this across the world, that players have their roles. And so, you may not be starting, but you bring in a Robbie Mertz in the 65th minute, and he is a difference maker that is punishing a tired team, and that is his role. And so to have somebody like a Robbie Mertz that you can bring off the bench is a very good thing. And so I think some of it is just understanding that you're still part of this team. You're still in training, pushing this team every week. Your job is to come in and run the game out. You're like a closer in in baseball. Like you come in to finish the game out. And so your job is just as important as everybody else. And so I think having the deep bench really sort of plays to that.
And I think that right there, what you're saying, right? Like that's a great point to illustrate how deep this team is.
Yeah.
Because what other season would you have said that Robbie Mertz is the guy coming in to close things out, as opposed to Bob feels like he has to start him because he doesn't have any competition in those positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am disappointed that he's had injuries this year, and it really sucks for him because I do think Mertz would be a starter normally. It's just the fact that he's had some nagging injury. I think that's why. I honestly do. I think he would be a starter if it wasn't for that injury.
I want to agree, but I'm also having a hard time finding who makes way for him.
No, that's fair. I mean, this is a good problem to have, and we've talked about it before, where this team in general, there's so many strong starters that like it is amazing that we have people on the bench who are able to come in and be extremely effective. I mean, like I can't believe that guy was just on the bench.
Right.
And that's a great problem to have. But it's still a situation though, like going back to what we were talking about before, where it's giving up late goals and that kind of stuff. I don't know where that's coming from because we do have such a strong bench. It's not like we can really blame tired legs and like a lack of depth on that situation. It's just I feel like the focus is still a little bit waning at the ending of the game, and got to figure out how to fix that for the playoffs because that's going to be what does us in. And I really want to get past 2 wins in the playoffs.
Agreed. Real quick, before we move on to the Tampa game, I just got to toot my own horn because, I wasn't here the past few weeks. In terms of Pick'em, I'm leading with 32 points, but we've had a lot of shifting behind me. Michael Finn is now on 28, Keaton Liebengood with 26, Lar Ellen at 25, Devin Pale at 24, and Kev's about to drop off the page with 22. So once again, we're going to keep going until basically the Hounds aren't playing anymore. So hopefully all the way through the championship. But basically you go on Twitter, you go on YouTube, you leave a comment. We'll put up a post on Friday with your score predictions. You put in your score predictions, 3 points if you get the score 100% right, 1 point if you pick the right result, no points otherwise. And at this point, Michael Finn is in pole position to walk away with 2 season tickets for the Steel Army for next year. So not a bad deal.
Nice.
So it's still not too late to play, even if there's, little chance of you sort of making up all of that distance to win it. It's still fun to go in and add your 2 points. And we now have this like database of all of these score predictions that we've tried to do to see how good are we actually at this. And Laura Ellen is actually working diligently on crunching the numbers and trying to make sense of those of us who think we're really good at this, like picking scores and realizing just how bad we actually are. And whether or not home and away has a factor in it, there's all sorts of stuff that she's getting into. And so we'll talk about that in the off season, but it's fun regardless. So make sure, check us out on social media. All the posts are over on YouTube. Leave a comment. But guys, as we've been saying, Tampa this weekend, as I mentioned, Tampa's last 2 games have been against Hartford, which was a 2-0 win, and Loudoun, which was a 1-0 win. And obviously points are points, but it's also not great that the 2 teams that have been already eliminated from the playoffs, Tampa is sort of like eking by against. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. As we sort of talk through the scenarios a little bit, if they beat us, then we're going to be tied with 63 points at the top of the East. We don't want to think about that. If we get a draw, we're going to be at 64. We already sort of, Luke did the math. We're sort of smooth sailing there. If we win, then we essentially clinch the East and the Players' Shield. And everything else sort of runs through Fort Highmark, which would be insane if we ultimately host a championship there. In terms of who it is that you need to watch on Tampa, it's Tampa. Like, you got to watch all of Tampa. But I did mention that at least in terms of the Golden Boot race, they have Cal Jennings, who has 17 goals for them. He's currently 2 behind Dequa. So, if Dequa's paying off the defense to sort of shut anybody down this weekend, it's going to be Cal Jennings. Guys, what let's just thoughts on this one. What is your headspace going into this game, Josh?
Yeah, it's. I feel like this one's going to be really dependent on our defense. Like I want to say, our offense is fantastic, and we're, if we go off there and start scoring goals, but I feel like, especially away at Tampa, this is a game where we need our defense to be on point. We need them to shut this down. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like one of those 0-0s or 0-1 type of games. If we're able to just shut them down. I would be happy with a 0-0 draw at this point. Honestly, that would not be a bad situation to be in. But I think we can win this game. I do think we are better than Tampa. It's just the fact that it is an away game, is always scary. But given, home and away with Tampa, I think we come out on top on that on average. So this is a winnable game. These are the games we have to win to prove that we are, deserving of winning the whole league and also going through the playoffs. So I'm saying a win. Do you want prediction right now, or do you just want thoughts?
No. Let's. I just want to get sort of headspace first, and then we'll do predictions.
Okay,
Steve,
all right.
Steve, what do you
That's
think?
where I'm at.
This is the Hounds game to not get a result, right? I think that we've seen the Hounds throughout the season win games that, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week, Josh and I, but we've seen this team win games that in past years I wouldn't have thought we would have been able to pull off the win, right? Going into a game like Saturday where we feel unlucky with that penalty. That's one of those games that in the past I'm just sitting there like, oh crap, are they going to equalize? Oh crap, right? Like, and I didn't feel that. I'm like, okay, well, they got a second goal. We've still got 3. Like, there's not that much time left. We're going to lock this down. I think the week before, right? I mean, the performance of when the offense wasn't finding ways to score, other players from set pieces getting those goals and getting those goals really nicely and putting other things into the box and right around the net, and making things happen in that game. And so I'm not worried. I mean, sure, anything can happen. Tampa is a good team, but the Hounds are a good team as well. And I mean, I can go through, I can look at stats in terms of offense versus defense over the years and goal differential and all those things. Liz put in there, I think at one point, that this may not be the best Hounds defense we've seen. But I don't care because I think this is the best Hounds team that we've seen. And I think the big difference there is it's the mentality, it's the attitude, it's what I was talking about with Arturo, right? Like some of those plays at big moments in the game that otherwise might be routine play, but just like the attitude, the drive, the desire, the getting pumped up, like we are the team to beat in the league is how I think the guys see it. And I don't think they're going to give up on that easily. Like, it takes something special to beat this team at this point.
Agreed. I think my mentality heading into this game is that, and knock on wood, but this just feels like a special team and a special moment. And it feels like if there is one piece that doesn't show up on Saturday, the other pieces pick up the weight and sort of carry from there. And we have not been in that situation in the past. You had to literally be firing on all cylinders at all times, and still you got your fingers crossed and you're hoping, praying. And this is a case where that's just not the scenario. I mean, we could have games where Dequa doesn't score and we're still okay. Now, I'd love to see Dequa get to 20. I don't know why it feels like a superficial number, but like 20, that's great. But he could not score this week, and like you said, you could have the defense pop up on a corner, and then the team shuts everything down. And this team knows its roles. We've talked in the past about how Lily can be very strict and stringent in terms of changing style of play mid-game, and everything is very fluid. And this is a case where you have a team full of intelligent players that can easily shift from one style to another just to sort of based on the situation and sort of keep tabs on whatever it is that Tampa tries to bring at us. We know that Tampa has to beat us if they want any hopes at winning the East. So they're going to come out swinging. And so, Steve, to your point, maybe you do make some adjustments to factor in speed, but that also leaves you open for a counterpunch. And we've been good at the counterpunch this year. I mean, that's kind of how we beat Columbus. So I don't. This is a massive game, but in previous seasons, I'd be like, "This is it. This is it." Like but I feel pretty comfortable about it, and I get the sense that the guys do too. There isn't this like tenseness in the squad. They're just going out and playing, and that's great.
I mean, when it comes down to it, we know Lily is a better coach than Nick Law. I'm just saying.
If there's nothing else, it comes down to that.
Nothing else. Nicky Law, not as good of a coach as Lily. I'm just saying. We have that at least.
That's fair. That's very.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. Tampa Bay is winning because they've got a good roster, not because they've got a good coach. And that's not saying Nicky Law won't be a good coach, but I mean, like, how much is he really doing, right? Like, he's jumping into a team that was built to win, and they're winning. There's no evidence that he's a good or a bad coach. He's just there running things.
And that's why I think, even though they're a good team, I feel like if Lily does Lily things where he, like, you know, surprises them with something that they're not expecting, I'm not positive that the tactic side of things with Tampa can cope with a Lily mind for, you know, switching things up, surprises. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the same lineup.
Yeah.
Even though we've had the same lineup for a couple of games in a row, I feel like it's a situation where Lily really could be like, no, I'm going to come out with something he's not expecting, and then he's going to have to be like, what do I do? And actually have to coach. Yeah. And so maybe it's a little bit egotistical, but I'm pretty positive that Lily can outsmart Nicky Law.
I keep thinking back to a few seasons ago when we went to Cincinnati, and Lily was like, "I'm going to play Vanky Azeel at left back." And we were like, "What?" And it just like it worked, and it was enough of a shock to the system. So, yeah, it will be very interesting to sort of see.
Yeah, I have no insight into this in particular, but this is one of those games where I could see him like doing an Obregon in the old Dixon role, right? Like, and only putting Dequa up front, right? But having somebody that is fast and has some attacking prowess as a defensive player, or sitting deeper so that they can run forward, but really pulling things back a little bit more and just come at us. What can you do? And we're going to leave the league leading goal scorer up top to make his runs at your keeper.
See, now I'm like, it's going to be like 3-0. Dequa's going to get 3 goals, but that's not my prediction. Steve, I'm going to start with you. Give me a score prediction here.
I think it's a 1-0 Hounds win.
1-0 win. Classic Lily. Josh?
So we're going to be watching this at Bulldog Pub. And if you can't make it to Bulldog Pub, go to Mike's Beer Bar. Just make sure you're with a group of people, because I got a feeling this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be like a 0-0 game. But the whole time you're on the edge of your shit seat and you're just like, oh no. So I'm ready to be having near heart palpitations. I'm going to say 0-0.
Ooh.
The whole time I'm just going to be nervous the whole time.
I'm going to go 2-0 win. I'm going to say that it's 1-0 late, and then Tampa presses and we catch them on a counter, and Dequa puts it away, and that's it. That's all she wrote. We get the shield, and it's just it's insanity. And
can we get that first goal early though, so that way I don't have to feel?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and christen it that, first 15 minutes.
Thank you. That'll be good. That'll be good.
Yeah. So it'll happen, and so it shall be. Liz just said he's already having palpitations, folks. I guess talking about you, Josh. Yeah, guys, that's what we think. Let us know what you think, obviously. Josh, Steve, anything else that you guys want to talk about here before we head out prior to this Tampa game?
Well, I just snuck it in there, but yeah, we are having a watch party, and so are the Hounds. I got a feeling there's going to be plenty of people for both. So, like, whichever one can go to. But the Steel Army will be at Bulldog Pub in Morningside, as always. Talk to Jesse, the owner. He's all for it. He's gung ho. So, like, yeah, definitely come out, watch this game with a group of people, because it's a huge game. Possibilities for this game could be the Players' Shield. So it has huge repercussions. You don't want to just be sitting at home watching this by yourself.
I feel like I saw somewhere. Well, we know that Hounds fandom is growing in the city, but I thought I saw somewhere that last weekend not this past one, but the one before that, the Hounds game was like the second most watched across all of the USL. So like it's not just it's not just Pittsburgh, it's not just at Highmark. Like people were starting to pay attention.
Yeah,
So
I really think changing channels helped a lot for the Hounds, and also just having that KDK connection and like having them talk about the team has really helped people watching this game.
Yeah. Man, what a time. Well, I think that's it. How do we close this thing? I don't remember how to do this.
Obviously, like we said,
whatever.
We've
Something
got some
about
social
that.
media. I don't know.
Yeah, go to make sure you get down to the watch party at Bulldogger Mike's. Follow us on social media. We are still on Twitter /X. Haven't really been on the other ones at all recently, except for YouTube, which again feels like it's trying to be more and more social. But yeah, get your score predictions in. Celebrate the game with everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we will be right back here next week. As Liz said in chat, let's go. So thank you, everybody. We will talk to you very, very soon.